Dropping your hands is a huge problem that you see at T-ball all the way up to college. And what happens is the player loads back, and as they're driving forward, their hands slowly start to drop so that their hands are in this position when they get to launch position. Okay, this creates a lot of problems like uppercutting the ball, which can produce a lot of weak ground balls and lazy pop-ups. So if you have a problem dropping your hands, stick around. I have 6 hitting drills that are guaranteed to help you fix it. Before we get started, I want to quickly talk about dropping your hands. You see a lot of MLB players starting with their hands down here. I think of guys like Edwin, who starts down here, and then as the pitch comes, he loads back, and then he gets in the same launch position that you see every other player in. But I personally like to have all my players start with their hands already in a position that they're going to be in launch position. Okay, hands, elbow, shoulder are around the same plane, about shoulder height, nice and tight to the body. Knob of the bat's facing the catcher. Okay, I find the less movement in the swing, the better. So that's why I like to get them to start here. Okay, but what happens is they load, drive forward, hand starts to drop, and they're down here. Okay, when we want to be up here when our heel hits the ground. So for the first drill, we're gonna grab a piece of PVC pipe. We're gonna get into our batting stance, place the bottom of the PVC pipe by our foot, grab the top like a bat. Now, you may have heard the term retract the scapula or load the scap. And what that means is retracting your scapula or your shoulder blade, pinching it towards the middle of your back. Okay, so that's what we're gonna work on here. Okay, we're gonna load, retract the scapula, pinching that shoulder blade into the middle of the back. It's not rotating it like that. It's just a slight pinch towards the middle of our back. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Get into our batting stance, we're gonna load, keeping our hands up, pinching the scapula, reset, load, retract the scap, just like that. So for this next drill, you've seen it before, but all we're gonna do is we're gonna load, pause at launch position, and then load and swing. Quick recap of launch position. As we drive forward and we make a connection with the ground with the heel, we're nice and balanced. Our front foot is slightly open. Our head is in the middle of our body. Our hands, our elbow, and our shoulder are relatively on the same plane, with our hands nice and tight to our body, with the knob of the bat facing the catcher. Okay? You'll have to excuse me on this swing. I'm working through a little bit of a neck injury here, so if my swing looks feeble, that's why. We're just gonna get into our batting stance, load, pause at launch position, making sure that our hands aren't down here, and then load, and swing. So for this next drill, we're gonna set up the tee, and we're actually gonna reverse it. And since you have a tendency of starting up here and dropping your hands down here, we're actually gonna start with our hands down here. Okay, so start with them nice and low, and then we're gonna load back. And as we load back, we're gonna make sure we bring our hands up here. Okay, so it just looks like this. Hands nice and low, load back and bring them up. Next drill we're gonna work on is the high tee. This is gonna help you stay on top of the baseball and help for players who drop their hands, and also for players who like to dip that back shoulder. Now, if you hear the term get on top of the baseball, that doesn't mean hit the top of the baseball. That just means you always want your hands above the baseball. Okay, you never want them to be below the baseball. So that's what that means when you hear get on top of the baseball. So for this drill, we're just gonna work on hitting line drives. If you hit the ball on the ground for this drill, that's okay. We just want to avoid dropping our hands and uppercutting and hitting the roof of the cage. Okay, so load. So for this next drill, we're gonna grab a connection ball. If you don't have a connection ball, you can use a volleyball or a dodgeball or a soccer ball or any kind of ball that's around this size. I'll link a bunch of different balls below that you can use. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna place the ball in between our shoulder and our hands. Okay, we're gonna get into our batting stance. And if we load and swing and we drop our hands, we're gonna feel the ball move. Okay, and if we get disconnected, the ball's gonna fall out. Okay, so we just wanna make sure that we keep the ball here, tight to our shoulder with our hands as we swing. And as we swing, the ball's gonna fall out, but that's okay. We just wanna make sure that doesn't fall out before we swing. So for the next drill, you're gonna need a band like this. If you don't have one, I'll link it below. But we're actually gonna grab the strap of the band, step on it with our back foot, making sure we're holding it tight so that we don't lose it and get lit up. And we're just gonna hold the bat like this, okay? And we're gonna make sure we have enough resistance that the band is pulling our hands down, but we wanna fight it, keeping our hands up, okay? So we're just gonna get into our batting stance, and we're just gonna load and pause, okay? Reset, load, pause, okay? The band's gonna wanna pull your hands down. We just wanna make sure that we keep them up in launch position, okay? Load, pause. Do about 10 reps of that, and then get rid of it, and then do the same thing without the band. You're gonna feel like the band is still pulling you down, which is gonna help you keep your hands up. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for more drills and tips, check the description box below, and I'll see you next week.